How do people in your ideal demographic, the 40 to 55-year-old high earning corporate individuals, families, busy, how do they typically rationalize not having contacted or not having hired a financial advisor yet? And what usually changes their mind or piques their interest?
I think most people are pretty comfortable doing it themselves while things feel pretty easy. And then I just think there is a complexity point with things that they don't have a great grasp on, whether it be the stock options, that's a pretty common one, or it's, all of us, you feel like you can fight one thing at a time. Now you start getting into your mid 40s. Now you have like 3 or 4 things coming at you at once. How do we prepare for our kids' school in the future? Parents need some help with stuff. I have these different retirement plans that I'm kind of juggling. Maybe I'm doing it well, maybe I'm not. I have this account at Robinhood or wherever that might be, and maybe it did well, but maybe it lost 80% because we thought we knew what we knew, but we didn't. And so I think there just reaches a point of complexity, and we're like, man, we would really like to help somebody coordinate everything. We have some questions. We might think we know what we're doing, but we're afraid we don't know what we don't. It's always complexity and pain, Corey. I wish it was something else. I wish it was just proactive. We want to get ahead of it. But 95% of the people who we get, it's complexity and pain.
Is it like my world? It's all, not everything exactly matches, but much of it rhymes. Is that the same in your world with folks that call and are coming in?
Almost always. I mean, there's just kind of, probably three or four different flavors of ice cream to choose from. But usually when someone kind of gives you, in the first couple of paragraphs, kind of their, what's going on in their world, you kind of have an idea of what direction it's going to go around or what the pain point is. And sometimes it's seasonal, right? We're in the point of the season now where everybody has just prepared for or just submitted their tax return, right? So you get a lot of those, tax time bomb types of things. Oh my goodness, we never thought we were going to owe this. Or there's something that happens with the tax filing as well. And I've heard a lot of it in the past couple of weeks is, now that we've kind of gathered all of our documents and given them to our tax preparer, we didn't make very much progress. For the money that we make, I felt we would have made more progress. And so there's some seasonality that comes from that because you're generally not gathering statements and documents every single month. You're doing it for kind of one specific purpose. So I think the reality of gathering all the documents, taking in account for where they are, and they're like, oh my goodness, we made 400,000, we made 500,000, really didn't make much progress compared to what I thought we would be. And so many people, they have allowed their lifestyle, their expenses to match their income level. And I can't tell you how many 40-year-olds who've kind of just been lulled into maxing out their 401k, hypnotized to the thought that it's enough when the math suggests that it is nowhere close.
On that note, what does the typical lifestyle creep conversation look like for you and clients when they finally sit down with you, call, like when that couple realizes they made 400, 450, 500, 5 plus, and their accounts don't match, but their lifestyle obviously has increased?
People never realize it, right? It is the little subtle things that happens. The story of the couple where one of the spouses says to the other, you spent $120,000 on the credit card last year. The spouse replies, I cannot believe that we spent $120,000 on the credit card last year. She says, no, you didn't hear me. You spent $120,000 on the credit card. I spent an additional this. And it was like, you're telling me together we spent this much money on credit cards? And one of the fun things we do is, ask people how much you think their monthly expenses are. And they'll say $6,000. Okay. How much is coming into the bank every month? $14,000. All right. So we have an additional $8,000 left over every month. So over the course of the year, that'd be $96,000. So where do you have this $96,000? And then they look at you for a second and they're like, we don't have that $96,000. Our checking account is the same as it was last year. Well, I would suggest that indeed your monthly expenses are not $6,000 and they are probably $14,000. That $96,000 went somewhere. I'm a huge believer that we will spend what we allow ourselves to spend. So you better be darn sure that you identify what is most important to you as far as the goals, figuring out what you need to fund those goals and how long you want to have to fund them. Figure out what you need to put into each and every one of those accounts and then spend the rest. But if you spend first, save later, you will save very little statistically. So I don't want to be the budget guy. I don't want to be saying, all right, you got to choose between Netflix and Hulu. Let's save and invest based upon the things that you say are the most important. And then I'm not going to micromanage what you do when you go to the polling.
How much does it help the family dynamic, the couple relationship? Because so often I'm willing to bet, I'm not an advisor, but just based on the conversations I have with you all, I'm willing to bet that generally one person kind of leads the charge in the family on the finances, and the other one trusts them and assumes that things are good. What's the impact that KMP has on a new family that becomes a client as you have both individuals in the meeting?
Yeah, and so we're going to have both people in the meeting whenever possible, right? There might be a few exceptions, something work related, but by and large, we want to have both people in the meeting. It would appear, I can't say this empirically, but it would appear that there is a level of stress that kind of rolls off the shoulders as people have a plan and work the plan, and you can see things build and compound over years, right? We've done this long enough where I've been working with clients for 15 years now, and you can see how they have changed over the years because they don't worry or stress about money because they know that they have a plan. The mere fact of having a plan versus winging it makes such a huge difference. I mean, I know it in my own life is that when I have a plan for anything, I feel much better about what I'm doing on a month-to-month basis versus winging it. We feel that way when we go to the gym. We've all been in those ruts in the gym, right? Where you kind of do things on your own. You're not following a program and you end up just doing the same 3 or 4 exercises every day. Having a plan, staying disciplined, it matters. And that's where I think real gains happen.
On that note, one thing that I think about in talking to you so often is that people are afraid to hire the financial planner because they think you guys are going to become the spending police and come down hard on people.
Yeah, no fun police.
I imagine people leave the meeting with you feeling like their lifestyle is going to basically feel exactly the same as it did, but now there's less leakage. And how do you make that work?
Yeah, once again, it is people feel good about funding their goals. If they say they want to put their kids through college and they find out they need to put $350 a month into, a 529 plan. Well, all of a sudden, for most people, because we're working with people who have some level of abundance, they can make lifestyle adjustments in other areas and they won't even notice it. But they will feel really proud about the fact that they're setting money aside for their kids, or they're setting money aside to be financially independent at 55, which is by far the number one thing I've heard in the past year, Corey. All of these people working hard in the grind, they want to be financially independent at 55, period. Nobody wants to work past 55 in a job that they really dislike or is high stress. They want to have the option to do something else. So I consistently see people willing to set aside more money to get to that point at age 55, and they will adjust their lifestyle accordingly.